India and the European Union will push to finalize a free trade agreement this year. Prime Minister Modi and European Commissioner President Ursula von der Leyen said on Friday. Von der Leyen led the new Commission's first visit to India last week as the EU seeks to keep New Delhi on side amid rising geopolitical tensions with the United States as well as Canada. At the same time, UK's Business and Trade Secretary Jonathan Reynolds was also in New Delhi last week to relaunch talks on the India-UK FTA. The UK-India FTA was launched under UK's Conservative government in Jan 2022 and was paused when former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak called the general election last year. India and the EU, on the other hand, resumed FTA talks in 2021 after talks collapsed in 2013. While progress has been slow since then, both EU and India now appear to be determined to strengthen ties to counter America's tariff threats and China's assertive trade practices. First, let's listen in to what Ursula von der Leyen had to say as well as what Prime Minister Modi had to say on artificial intelligence being the bedrock of this partnership.
The potential is immense. Europe is already India's biggest trading partner. Last year alone, we exchanged 120 billion worth of goods, and over the past 2 decades, our trade has tripled. All this is proof that our businesses and people want to work together. For Europe, India is a pillar of certainty in an increasingly uncertain world. We know that authoritarian states are getting bolder, ignoring borders, threatening peace at sea. Now is the time to step up our security and defense cooperation on land, at sea and in space.
हमने अपनी टीम्स को एक पारस्परिक लाभकारी बायलैटरल फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट को, एफटीए को इस वर्ष के अंत तक संपन्न करने का निर्देश दिया है। इन्वेस्टमेंट फ्रेमवर्क मजबूत करने के लिए इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रोटेक्शन और जीआई एग्रीमेंट पर भी आगे बढ़ने की बात हुई है। टेक्नोलॉजी और इनोवेशन के क्षेत्र में एक ट्रस्टेड और सिक्योर वैल्यू चेन हमारी साझी प्राथमिकता है। सेमीकंडक्टर, एआई, हाई परफॉर्मेंस कंप्यूटिंग और 6G में सहयोग बढ़ाने पर भी सहमति बनी है। हमने एक स्पेस डायलॉग शुरू करने का निर्णय भी लिया है।
Mithali, you just heard Ursula von der Leyen, you also heard Prime Minister Modi. Now, EU is India's largest trading partner when it comes to India's exports, both goods and services to that region after the US, of course. And then, of course, India-UK trade partnerships happened earlier last week. I want to understand what is really holding these two FTAs back, and do you see a case for, given all that you mentioned and all that is happening in global trade with President Trump and the tariffs between US and the rest of the world pretty much, do you see a real case for FTAs to get finalized both with the EU and the UK by end of this year?
So I think, Karthik, first of all, for India, as well as for the UK and Europe, you can see that, this FTA is critical for continuing the growth momentum. I mean, at this point in time, UK and Europe both realize that they also have to, in a manner, go it alone when it comes to negotiating trade agreements with countries like India, with all the BRICS countries, because they are not sure about, the path that the US is going to take. And also, since Brexit, UK and Europe definitely, they also have to work separately. So at this point in time, these two FTAs is very critical. What I'm observing is India is in a very, very good position here because everybody is coming to India to work out these FTAs on a one-to-one basis. Even the US, in Prime Minister Modi's visit, actually has committed that we should increase the US-India trade to $500 billion a year. So
Right.
at the end of the day, I think this really puts us in a very good position with respect to the EU, the UK, and the US, the three largest markets of the world.
Okay, so Mithali, how much of this seems to be linked exactly to Trump sort of completing his swing and going ahead and implementing those tariffs that he has been threatening the world with? Do you think if for some reason Donald Trump decides to use tariffs as has been anticipated just as a negotiation tool and not go ahead and implement them despite him repeatedly saying that he will go ahead and implement them, do you think these talks could perhaps take a side seat or a back seat in case Trump doesn't go ahead and implement those tariffs?
No, Karthik. I think that it's very evident that this is in the interest of both the regions,
Okay.
regardless of what happens with Trump tariffs. Because at the end of the day, when you look at the British economy and the slowdown that the British economy itself is, experiencing, they need to strike these deals with India because they need to import a lot more raw materials and a lot more intermediate products from India in order to manufacture high value goods in the UK. I mean, that's one of the major strategies that the UK has had
Right.
since many years. Similar strategies being thought of in EU, where they want to focus on more competitiveness in say the semiconductor industry, in AI chips, and a lot of the raw materials for that also can be coming in from India. For
Right.
India, the interest is of course that we need to get into these new tech industries and also have that technology transfer from these countries work together and really build up the value addition from our side.